When Lu Xun, the imperial grandson who had been lost among the common folk, was brought back to the palace and named crown prince, he forced me to switch identities with his concubine. He wanted to take our son and his concubine with him, returning to his home in glory as a family of 3. Jiyuan, Wanwen is my savior. Besides, she is not from around here. It's not right for her to stay. You, at least, are a local. You'll have people to look after you if you remain. When I ascend the throne in the future, I will surely come back for you and make you a noble consort. I couldn't let go of our love as husband and wife, and I certainly couldn't part with my son. I fought against it with all my might. But what I received in return was not compromise, but a horrific massacre. To keep anyone from knowing of his connection to me, he turned the tip of his sword on the villagers who had cared for him for years. Overnight, the village became a living hell. No one survived. He said he couldn't bear to kill me, that he wanted me to stay with him forever. So he personally dug out my eyes, cut out my tongue, and broke my limbs, keeping me in a large water urn in the backyard of the Eastern Palace. He left me only my hearing, so I could listen to his sorrows and frustrations. A palace maid who could no longer bear to watch secretly slit my throat, granting me release. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day the emperor came to acknowledge Lu Xun. This time, I didn't want a life together. I only prayed that we could go our separate ways. When the disguised emperor arrived in Qingshan village, I was in the fields planting new seedlings. Second auntie from next door called out to me from a distance, "Jiyuan, you have distinguished guests at your house. Such a grand display. I hear they're here to take your husband to the capital to be an official. Aren't you going to hurry back and see?" I froze, feeling as if a lifetime had passed. The aunts and uncles in the fields were all standing before me, alive and well. Yet my mind was filled with images of a sea of blood and a mountain of corpses. I subconsciously touched my face. The splattered blood from my past life still felt searingly hot. Fear flooded every inch of my body. My trembling hands could barely hold the hoe. After a great effort to calm myself, I forced a serene smile. I always knew he was someone important. Weren't we just pretending to be husband and wife all these years because I was worried you all would drive him away? Second auntie, the truth is, Lu Xun's real wife is Yu Wanwen, and that little rascal, Lu Heng, is their son. Me, I was just helping them out, acting as a shield. The surrounding villagers all stopped their work, looking at me in disbelief. Second auntie frowned. "Jiyuan, a lifelong commitment is no joking matter. Are you in some kind of trouble? Tell us, and we'll all stand up for you. My parents died young, and I grew up eating meals from all the families in the village. The villagers were simple and kind. Every one of them treated me like their own daughter. It was because of this that in my past life, when Lu Xun tried to force me to become his concubine, everyone stood up for me. Tragically, what awaited them was a nightmare of shattered families and death. From the eldest elders to the infants in swaddling clothes, they all paid with their lives for my foolish obsession. I suppressed the pain in my chest and tried my best to appear nonchalant. Second auntie, what trouble could I be in? I just have a soft heart, that's all. I couldn't bear to see them homeless. If you all truly care for me, then please don't mention this marriage again. That way, it'll be easier for me to find a husband in the future, right?" Second auntie came to her senses and stomped her foot. "Oh, you're right, that makes sense." She turned to the others. "Everyone, hurry home and remind each other, don't let this slip out. Otherwise, it will be hard for our Jiyuan to marry later on." These simple people didn't have convoluted thoughts. All they ever thought about was how to treat others with sincerity. Just like when Lu Xun first arrived. Though they were wary, they still brought out their best wine and served the kind of meat dishes reserved for the new year to welcome him. They were afraid he might be a bad person, but they were even more afraid that he wouldn't eat well or stay warm. How could such a kind group of people not meet with a good end? I pondered this question for a whole lifetime, but never found an answer. But I'm done thinking about it. Rather than searching for reasons after the fact, it's better to wake myself up beforehand and strangle this nightmare in its cradle. Only after everyone had accepted my story did I shoulder my hoe and walk home. The moon was high in the sky. By my calculations, the emperor should have already left. Their grandfather-grandson reunion was over. Now, it was my turn. Sure enough, just as I reached my doorstep, Lu Xun stopped me. "Jiyuan, there's something I need to tell you." Not wanting him to discover my rebirth, I patiently listened to his explanation. Afterward, I asked calmly, "So, what are your highness's plans?" Lu Xun lowered his head, a hint of guilt in his eyes, and said the exact same words as in my previous life. I want you to switch places with Wanwen. She will be the wife and you, the concubine. Before he could finish, I interrupted him calmly. Okay. Lu Zun was stunned. It took him a moment to speak. You're not going to ask me why. I smiled understandingly. Your Highness has suffered so much while living among the common folk for all these years. You must have your reasons for everything you do. Rest assured, Your Highness. I will tell the villagers that I only pretended to be your wife all these years to protect you. I will absolutely not cause any trouble for you. Lu Zun sighed with relief. Zhiyuan is still the one who treats me best. After speaking, he habitually reached out to pat my head, just as he always had. I subtly avoided his touch and reminded him, Your Highness, we did exchange marriage certificates. Shouldn't we write something to formalize this? Lu Zun's hand froze in midair, a flicker of inexplicable loss in his eyes. I could see it, but I couldn't understand it. Just like in my past life, he destroyed my family and home, yet he shed tears, saying he couldn't bear to part with me. I spent 3 years as a human torso. During those 3 years, whenever he was sad, troubled, or couldn't see a way forward, he would lean against the water urn and confide in me. He would even kiss my forehead each time he left. He was never repulsed by my grotesque, inhuman appearance. Zhiyuan, this is the document demoting you from wife to concubine. If you still haven't learned to write your name, you can just use your thumbprint. But don't worry, this is all temporary. When I ascend the throne, I will compensate you handsomely. Lu Zun's words pulled me back from my thoughts. I didn't respond, instead suggesting, Your Highness, could we change this to a letter of divorce instead? Lu Zun's hands trembled slightly. A drop of ink from the brush tip fell onto the document, blurring the character for concubine. He stared at me intently, his voice hoarse. Zhiyuan, you want to divorce me? I didn't dare tell the truth. I was afraid that once again, because he couldn't bear to part with me, he would torture me until I wished for death. I could only suppress the fear in my heart and lie. Your Highness, I'm doing this for your own good. I've heard the Emperor is a devoted man who only ever married the Empress. If he finds out you have a concubine, he might hold it against you. Zhiyuan doesn't want you to suffer anymore. I only want you to be safe and sound. Lu Zun couldn't help but pull me into his arms, his chin gently rubbing the top of my head. Zhiyuan, you are the best wife in the world. Once everything is settled, I will make it up to you. I didn't dare speak, clumsily writing my name on the divorce agreement. Those crooked, misshapen characters were the only ones I knew how to write, taught to me by Lu Zun, one stroke at a time. It took me a full year to learn those 3 characters. I would always miss a stroke here or there. Every time I made a mistake, I would get frustrated. But Lu Zun would patiently console me, telling me not to rush, to learn slowly. If I couldn't learn it in a day, he would teach me for a day. If I couldn't learn it in a year, he would teach me for a year. I had giggled and asked him, what if I could never learn it in my entire life? He had replied, gently but firmly, that he would teach me for a lifetime. Now, I no longer needed his lifetime, because I had finally written it correctly. Unfortunately, it was on a letter of divorce. Since we were no longer husband and wife, we should sleep in separate rooms. When I returned to the side room alone, I found Lu Heng chopping firewood in the backyard. The 6-year-old boy glanced at me and called out faintly, Mother. It was polite, yet utterly distant. Unlike before, I didn't try to curry favor with him. I simply took the axe from his hands and said, just as coldly, You'll soon be an imperial great-grandson. You can't be doing this kind of work. Lu Heng froze for a moment, seemingly unaccustomed to this side of me, and looked a bit lost. After a while, he made small talk. Mother, once we get to the capital, you won't have to work in the fields anymore. I shook my head calmly. My new seedlings have just been planted. They can't be left alone. I won't be going to the capital. Before I could finish, Yu Wanwen walked out of the house, holding Lu Heng's schoolwork. The iciness on Lu Heng's face instantly melted like frost, replaced by a smile unique to a child. He took Yu Wanwen's arm and asked expectantly, Auntie, I did well on my lessons today, didn't I? Ever since Lu Heng was old enough to understand, he had always loved to follow Yu Wanwen around. I once heard his village playmates ask him why he didn't cling to his own mother. He said that Yu Wanwen was beautiful, always gentle as water, and knew everything from music and painting to poetry and literature. Unlike me, with my sun-darkened skin and loud voice, who was good for nothing but manual labor. At times like these, he would sigh like a grown-up and say how wonderful it would be if Yu Wanwen were his real mother. I never took it to heart before, thinking it was just childish talk. Now I understood. Those had always been his true feelings. Yu Wanwen ruffled Lu Heng's hair and smiled. Yes, you've made great progress. Then, feeling it was perhaps inappropriate, she handed the schoolwork to me. Sister, you should take a look too. Lu Heng subconsciously frowned. Auntie, my mother can't read. How could she understand this? The memories flooded back again. In my past life, I refused to divorce and begged Lu Zun to take me with him. Lu Heng stood to the side and said with disgust, "What would you do there? Chop firewood and cook, or do laundry and farm? Mother, father is going to be the crown prince. His wife can only be a talented scholar like Auntie. Just stop making trouble and making us a laughingstock." The words from the child I had carried for 10 months were more chilling than anything Lu Zun had said. Since in his eyes I was just a laughingstock, then this time I wouldn't get involved. It would also fulfill his dream of having a different mother. I took a step back, not taking the papers from Yu Wanwen's hand, and went along with Lu Heng's words. Sister, the child is right. I don't understand anything, so I shouldn't interfere. From now on, you don't need to tell me about his affairs. I'll have to trouble you to take more care of him. Yu Wanwen said guiltily. Sister, I tried to persuade His Highness about the wife swapping, but he was insistent. But don't you worry. His Majesty has given His Highness 3 days to handle his affairs. I will try to talk to him again. In my past life, I hated Yu Wanwen, thinking she had whispered poison in Lu Zun's ear. But when I was trapped in the Eastern Palace, she had tried her best to stop Lu Zun from turning me into a human torso. When her pleas failed, she secretly brought me food and drink, told me about my son's growth, and encouraged me to live on. It was also she who, when my life was worse than death, arranged for a maid to give me a quick end. So, living again, I understood her helplessness and let go of my hatred for her. I shook my head calmly and said, Sister, please don't try to persuade him anymore. I'm not throwing a tantrum at His Highness. My marriage with His Highness was never a good match to begin with. If His Highness had been saved by you sooner, I would never have married him at all. Making this decision now is just me recognizing the truth. I no longer wish to be the mud that clings to the clouds in the sky. Seeing that Yu Wanwen still wanted to persuade me, I told a white lie. Sister, you know how foolish I am. If I were really the crown prince's official wife, I'd probably be torn to shreds by others. If you truly care for me, sister, it won't be too late for you to come and get me after you've established yourselves in the capital and cleared away all obstacles. Yu Wanwen sighed and finally nodded in agreement. Seeing me so understanding for the first time, Lu Heng's tone softened considerably, but he still put on a serious, adult-like face. Mother, you stay here and be good. Don't go anywhere. Once we're settled, Father and I will come back for you. Okay. I convinced Lu Zun to write a letter of severance for me, a letter severing my ties with Lu Heng. I said that the people in the capital were shrewd, and if they ever investigated and something went wrong, this would be a way to handle it. They didn't suspect a thing. The night before they left, I stayed up all night, packing their bags for them. When the Imperial Guards arrived, I took the hairpin from my hair and handed it to Lu Zun. This is something Your Highness has carried since childhood. It must have belonged to the late crown princess. I should return it to you. Lu Zun frowned slightly, a flicker of an emotion I couldn't decipher in his eyes. He didn't take it, instead pushing it back. You keep it. If we ever get separated in the future, we'll have a token to recognize each other by. I shook my head and turned to place the hairpin in Yu Wanwen's hair. This belonged to the late crown princess. If I keep it, it will only attract unnecessary suspicion. Your Highness, please don't bring trouble upon me. Besides, didn't you say you would come back for me? I'll just wait here. Yu Wanwen wanted to refuse, but seeing Lu Zun nod, she didn't press the matter. I then turned to Lu Heng and pointed to the cheap jade pendant at his waist. That's the only thing my mother left me. Can I have it back? Lu Heng frowned unconsciously. Mother, didn't you say this was your most precious possession and that I should wear it always? I smiled. While you're away, having the pendant with me will keep me from being too lonely. When you come to take me to the capital in the future, I'll give it back to you, okay? Seeing the logic in my words, Lu Heng reluctantly handed the pendant to me. I was actually a little confused. When I had told Lu Heng he was never to take off the pendant, he had looked utterly disgusted. He had said the pendant was a burden, and that he'd rather wear the peace talisman Auntie had given him. But now that I was telling him he didn't have to wear it, why did he seem unhappy? I couldn't figure it out, so I decided not to think about it. I pushed the packed bags and food into their hands. I chattered on. Inside, there are the apricot blossom pastries Your Highness loves, the mung bean cake sister enjoys, and the malt candy the young highness likes. Take them with you, you can have a snack on the road. Lu Heng pouted and muttered, don't you always say sweets are bad for my teeth and never let me have too much. I fought back the lump in my throat and smiled. There will be plenty of fine things in the capital. It's fine to have a little of this coarse food one last time, lest you crave it in the future and can't find it. Lu Heng stared blankly, confused. Mother, what do you mean by that? I quickly rubbed my reddening eyes. It's nothing, I just can't bear to see you go. A pang of hurt crossed Lu Zun's eyes. He bent down and kissed my forehead, comforting me. Ji Yuan, I'm sorry, I'm the one who has wronged you. But don't worry, I will get on the right track as soon as possible and bring you to the capital. Then our family can be reunited. Yu Wanwen put her arm around my shoulder. That's right, sister. When the time comes, if it's possible, you should still be His Highness's official wife. I agreed to everything they said. The captain of the Imperial Guard's urging voice came from outside the courtyard wall. They delayed no longer. Lu Zun was the last to leave. Just as he was about to step out of the gate, he turned back, pulled me into a tight embrace, and instructed me, word by word, don't go anywhere. Just wait for me here. Okay. After watching them leave, I turned and went inside. I took down my already packed bundle from the top of the cabinet and headed north without a backward glance. I had to leave the Great Yue before Lu Zun came back for me. Only then could I draw a clear line between us in this life and never see him again. I didn't have much money. To avoid starvation, I didn't dare hire a carriage and could only travel north on foot. Lu Zun had actually left me several thousand taels of gold when he departed. I didn't touch a single coin, leaving the gold locked away in the wardrobe. If I was going to draw a line, it had to be a clean one. I didn't want to owe him anything, because the elders in the village always said that people who owe each other will meet again in the next life. I didn't want to meet again. Walking was slow. After 2 full months, I was still only halfway to the border, and the money I had was nearly gone. I decided to stay in Kinju, found work in a tavern, and planned to save some money before continuing my journey. Who would have thought that half a month later, a troop of soldiers would arrive in Kinju, searching for someone with a portrait. Wu San, a fellow waiter who loved gossip, came over to me mysteriously after making some inquiries. Do you know who those officers are looking for? Not wanting to spoil his fun, I asked while wiping a table. Who? Wu San covered his mouth and whispered, the savior of the imperial grandson. I think her surname is Jiang. You won't believe it, His Highness the imperial grandson has even issued a reward. Whoever finds this Miss Jiang gets 3,000 taels of gold. Savior, only Lu Zun could come up with something like that. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Thankfully, I had taken precautions, disguising myself as a man and using an alias. Otherwise, I would have had a hard time escaping today. I just never thought that I, one day, would be worth 3,000 taels of gold. Seeing me dazed, Wu San thought I was interested and continued. Why do you think this Miss Jiang hasn't shown up yet? She's the imperial grandson's savior. Think of all the glory and wealth waiting for her. I smiled calmly. The wealth of the imperial family isn't something an ordinary person can handle. If I were that girl, I would also choose not to appear. Life is much more important than riches and honor. Just in case, I collected my wages from the owner and left Kinju that very night. But the soldiers seemed to be under a lot of pressure, searching in shifts day and night. While passing a post station, a captain noticed my furtive appearance and shouted for me to stop. He unfolded the portrait and looked me up and down, his brow furrowed. He muttered to himself, the eyes and brows look a bit similar. I disguised my voice, putting on a rough, subservient smile. Officer, there are countless people in the world who look alike. Even if you want to report back, you should at least find someone of the same gender. I'm a grown man. If you take me back, won't you be the one who gets punished? The soldier thought for a moment and nodded. That's true. All right, you can go. I let out a breath of relief and didn't dare linger, fleeing in a hurry. But before I was out of sight, the soldier suddenly came to his senses and bellowed, Quick, seize her. She has no Adam's apple. She's not a man. My heart sank. I couldn't care about anything else and dove headfirst into the dark woods. But the soldiers, having finally found a clue, weren't about to give up so easily. They pursued me relentlessly with torches. Seeing the lights converging from all directions, I collapsed to the ground in despair. Just when I thought I was done for, a hand suddenly pulled me into a hidden tree hollow. Only after the soldiers had left empty-handed did the person let go. I could finally see clearly. It was a young man about my age. He stared at my face for a long moment, then asked in shock, "You're the 3,000 taels of gold." I cursed my luck. I had just escaped the wolf's den, only to enter the tiger's lair. I warily took 2 steps back and asked with a cold expression, "You want to trade me to the imperial grandson for the reward too?" The young man looked at me with amusement. "Your clothes are plain, your hair is dull, and your hands are calloused. You look like someone who's used to a hard life. Since the imperial grandson is willing to spend 3,000 gold taels to find you, and specifically ordered that you not be harmed, you must be very important to him. Why are you hiding everywhere instead of going to the capital to enjoy a life of luxury with him?" In the few months since Lu Xun had returned to the capital, he had cultivated a reputation for being kind and virtuous. The world thought him a good man, but only I knew how painful it was to be a human torso, a life worse than death. I couldn't bear such an extreme form of love. Seeing the pain on my face, the young man knew I had my reasons and didn't press further. "All right, if you don't want to talk about it, don't. Everyone has their own choices. I respect yours. You should get going. I have to be on my way too." I saw that he was carrying a medicine box and heading north, so I quickly ran after him. "You're a doctor, right? Are you heading north? Can you take me with you?" The young man's lips curled into a smile. "Bringing you along, wouldn't that just be extra baggage?" All this time, I had been looking for a travel companion, someone to watch my back, but I was worried about untrustworthy people and didn't dare follow anyone easily. Now that I had finally met someone who wasn't interested in the reward, I naturally didn't want to give up. The baggage is only temporary. Once we're past the border, the imperial grandson's reach won't extend that far. Besides, although I can't read and don't know medicine, I do recognize some medicinal herbs. I can be your assistant in the future. Seeing him still hesitate, I added, "For no pay." The young man couldn't help but laugh and finally relented. "Then hurry up and keep up." As we chatted along the way, I learned that the young man's surname was Wansi, and his given name was Shu. He was a traveling physician with no fixed home. He was heading north this time because the Kaoyan flowers, unique to the Tianshan Mountains, were about to bloom. The Kaoyan flower could treat heart ailments and was a coveted medicinal ingredient for every physician. However, the flower grew on the summit of Tianshan, and picking it was fraught with danger. Thinking that I had nowhere else to go, I volunteered to accompany Wansi Shu. He refused at first, but he couldn't withstand my persistent pleading and finally nodded. To prevent any accidents, he even took the time to teach me some simple medical skills along the way. I studied very diligently, because I discovered that learning medicine was not only easier than doing miscellaneous chores and farm work, but it was also more respected. If I learned well, I could even find an apprenticeship at a medical hall in the future. Wansi Shu saw through my little scheme. Though he often teased me, he was never stingy with his teachings. Traveling with him made the journey much smoother. Just as we were about to reach the border, we were reported to the authorities for treating a patient. The soldiers caught up to us before we could escape. The captain respectfully requested that I return to the capital. As I stood there, at a loss, Wansi Shu took my hand. "Jiyuan is my lawfully wedded wife. It is only natural that she follows her husband. I do not permit her to go, so how could she dare?" The soldiers didn't dare act rashly. They put us under guard and sent a letter to Lu Xun. That night, I tossed and turned, and finally told Wansi Shu everything about my past with Lu Xun, leaving nothing out. "You lied to help me today. Knowing Lu Xun's extreme nature, he will definitely not let you off lightly. You should run for your life. I can handle the rest myself." Wansi Shu ground his medicinal herbs, smiling nonchalantly. "It's fine. He wouldn't dare do anything to me. If you want to break off with him completely, then play the part of my wife well. I promise, this time, you will truly be reborn." On the 5th day of our confinement, the sound of horse hooves finally echoed outside the door. I had expected soldiers with Lu Xun's reply, but to my surprise, the person who pushed open the door was Yu Wanwen. Her hair was slightly disheveled, and she was covered in dust. She must have traveled day and night to get here. Yu Wanwen threw her arms around me, her voice choked with sobs. "Jiyuan, where have you been all this time? We've been looking so hard for you." I patted her back comfortingly. "I was bored at home, so I went to study medicine with Ah Shuo. I was just trying to pass the time. I didn't think I'd cause you all so much trouble." Yu Wanwen shook her head, relieved. "It's no trouble as long as you're safe. It's just that my husband was frantic when he couldn't find you. After receiving the letter, he wanted to come with me, but the 100 Kingdoms Summit is approaching, and neither he nor Hanger could get away. So he had me come find you first." With that, she took my hand and started to lead me out. Let's not delay. We should hurry back to the capital. My husband has already had a residence prepared for you. He's just waiting for you to return so he can request an imperial decree for your marriage. I pulled my wrist free, took a few steps back, and explained calmly, Sister, I'm not going. As for the marriage, please relay to His Highness that he should not mention it again. I married Ashu a month ago. My reminder seemed to jolt Yu Wanwen back to reality, and she remembered what was mentioned in the letter. She looked at Wansi Shuo behind me and asked in astonishment, You really got married? His Highness thought you were just saying that out of anger. He even told me to coax you when I got here. I shook my head and smiled. No, Ashu has taught me so much these past days. I truly love being with him. Yu Wanwen pulled me aside, lowering her voice with worry. Ji Yuan, I have shared a bed with His Highness for many years. I know his heart better than anyone. It was wrong of him not to bring you to the capital, but he does have you in his heart. When he talks in his sleep, it's your name he calls out. If he finds out you've married someone else, he might go mad. Sister is not trying to break up you and Dr. Shuo, but I am genuinely worried that you both will be in danger. Seeing Yu Wanwen's sincere warning, I was deeply moved. I felt even more guilty for the hatred I had harbored for her in my past life. I took her hand and said, Sister, please stay out of this, lest His Highness take his anger out on you. Just send a letter and tell him that I refuse to leave, even on pain of death. Seeing that my mind was made up, Yu Wanwen could only let out a long sigh and agree. Half a month later, as Wansi Shuo was teaching me how to mix medicines, the sound of horse hooves once again came from outside. Wansi Shuo looked at me and smiled. He's here. Are you scared? I shook my head. Even though you haven't told me anything, I trust you. Just as I finished speaking, a rushed and familiar voice called from the doorway. Zheyuan. It had been a while. Lu Zun had grown even more handsome. With his jade crown and brocade robes, he had acquired the air of a ruler. Every gesture exuded a natural authority, the very picture of a king. Only the weariness in his eyes betrayed the long journey he had made. I bowed respectfully. This humble woman greets Your Highness, the imperial grandson. Lu Zun's face darkened. He strode over, pulled me to my feet, and pressed me into his embrace without another word. Didn't you promise to wait for me at home and not go anywhere? Why did you break your promise? I struggled desperately but couldn't push him away. I could only say, Your Highness, this humble woman is already married. This kind of behavior is improper. Lu Zun's back stiffened, and he froze for a moment. I took the opportunity to push him away and retreat to Wansi Shuo's side. Your Highness, I forgot to introduce you. This is my husband. The common people call him Dr. Shuo. Lu Zun's hands clenched into fists, the white knuckles betraying his rage. But he still didn't want to lose his composure in front of others. He said through gritted teeth, Married? Does Dr. Shuo know you have a husband and a son? My heart leaped into my throat. If I admitted that Wansi Shuo knew about my relationship with him and his son, he would likely meet the same fate as the villagers in my past life. At that thought, I quickly interrupted, Your Highness, don't speak nonsense. My husband knows nothing. I pulled Lu Zun aside and whispered, Your Highness, your position as crown prince is not yet secure. If our past is exposed, it could be detrimental to you. For the sake of your great cause, it would be best for Your Highness to keep your distance from this humble woman. Lu Zun gripped my wrist, his face ashen. You want to keep your distance from me that badly? I gave a weak smile. Am I not doing this for Your Highness's own good? But Lu Zun didn't believe me at all. His eyes were bloodshot as he said, Ji Yuan, are you really doing this for my own good, or have you fallen in love with that doctor? I knew it would be rude to keep lying. I might as well be honest. Yes, I have fallen in love with him. That's why I don't want him to know about our past, so he won't be innocently implicated in the future. Lu Zun's eyes instantly turned red. He asked in a hoarse voice, You're lying to me, aren't you? Ji Yuan, you clearly said that in this life, it could only be me. I swallowed the bitterness in my throat and said calmly, Your Highness, you once said it could only be me too. When I was young, I went up the mountain to gather herbs and found Lu Zun, who had fainted from hunger in a cave. From then on, we became family, relying on each other. When I reached marriageable age, the village chief started looking for a match for me. The usually calm Lu Zun grew anxious. That very day, he confessed his feelings and asked if I would marry him. I looked at his well-defined features and suddenly felt inferior. I said, You're so handsome, and you're skilled in both literature and martial arts. You could find a much better girl. But he shook his head without hesitation. I'm not looking. In this life, it can only be you. I was deeply moved and immediately agreed. And so we became husband and wife. There was no banquet, no grand procession, only a red wedding dress he made for me himself and a cup of nuptial wine so strong it was hard to swallow. But neither of us cared, because we had each other. In the second year of our marriage, Lu Xun went into the mountains to chop wood, was robbed by bandits, and fell off a cliff, severely injured. It was Yu Wanwen who carried him back. After he recovered, he took pity on Yu Wanwen for having nowhere to go and discussed taking her as a concubine with me. I refused at first. He persuaded me, "This is just a temporary measure. But don't worry, in your husband's heart, you will always be first." I believed him, but I never expected that the man for whom it could only be me would ultimately choose to abandon me. The memories were like a knife, stabbing at my heart. I tried to calm my emotions and said, "Your Highness, there is no such thing as it can only be you in this world. If there is, it's only because at that time, we had no better choice." Seeing that I wouldn't yield to a soft approach, Lu Xun changed his tactics. He walked over to Wansi Shuo and laid bare the entire history of my relationship with him. Then he threatened, "Dr. Shuo, now that you know my secret, I'll give you two choices. Either leave Zhiyuan or keep your mouth shut forever." I thought Wansi Shuo would be frightened, but he remained perfectly calm and said, "Zhiyuan is my wedded wife. I cannot leave her." Lu Xun's brow furrowed, his expression turning cold. "In that case, you can keep your mouth shut forever." He waved his hand, and his guards swarmed forward. I panicked, shielding Wansi Shuo with my body. Wansi Shuo patted my back comfortingly. "Don't worry, I'll be fine." With that, he took out a jade pendant and handed it to Lu Xun. "Perhaps your Highness should look at this before deciding whether to kill me to silence me." Lu Xun was bewildered. He stared at the pendant for a long time before asking in shock, "May I ask Dr. Shuo's esteemed surname?" Wansi Shuo cupped his hands. "My humble surname is Wansi." Lu Xun trembled all over. "What is your relation to Wansi Shi?" Wansi Shuo smiled. "He was my late father." Upon hearing this, Lu Xun immediately dropped to one knee. "So you are the son of my benefactor. I have greatly offended you. Please forgive me." Only then did I understand the whole story. 19 years ago, during the struggle for the throne among the 5 princes, Lu Xun's father, Crown Prince Lu Yan, had led troops to protect the king, but was framed for rebellion. His entire family was executed. At that time, Wansi Shuo's father, the divine physician Wansi Shi, happened to be at the crown prince's residence treating the crown princess. Hearing of the disaster, he decisively took Lu Xun and fled. That was the only reason Lu Xun had survived. No wonder Wansi Shuo was so calm after hearing about my history with Lu Xun. It turned out there was this connection between them. Wansi Shuo helped Lu Xun up and said calmly, "The late crown prince was a man of great righteousness. His son must also be a reasonable man. It is precisely because I believe this that I was willing to wait here for your Highness." Wansi Shuo pointed at me. "Zhiyuan is simple by nature and is not suited for the intricate web of court politics. I have spent every day with her recently and discovered she has a talent for medicine. Moreover, she herself enjoys the peace of mind that comes from helping people. If your Highness truly wishes her well, then it would be better to grant her this wish." Lu Xun seemed lost in thought, staring at me blankly. Seeing this, Wansi Shuo added, "If your Highness were just an ordinary man, no matter how hard or tiring life became, I believe Zhiyuan would never have left you. But your Highness is not an ordinary man. How can a girl who cannot even read accompany you to the very end?" Lu Xun didn't answer. Instead, he walked straight up to me and asked, "Zhiyuan, the path of a ruler is indeed perilous. But if I swear to protect you for a lifetime, would you be willing to accompany me?" I shook my head without hesitation. "I am not willing. Your Highness, this humble woman is coarse. I cannot navigate the complexities of the outside world, nor can I contend with the intrigues of the 3 palaces and 6 courtyards within. Even if your Highness has the intention, you cannot possibly protect me at all times." Lu Xun sighed, finally finding release. "All right, I understand." But one storm had barely passed when another arose. Just as Lu Xun was convinced, Lu Heng's voice reached my ears. "Mother, are you really so heartless as to abandon even your own son?" Perhaps the food in the capital was good. In just a few short months, Lu Heng had grown by half a head and now reached my shoulder. He looked up at me, his expression still as cold as ice. But there was a flicker of expectation in his eyes. I subconsciously wanted to reach out and touch his head, but I caught myself in time, withdrawing my hand and saying respectfully, "Young Highness, walls have ears. Do not shout such things." Lu Heng frowned, displeased. "I'm not shouting nonsense. Once a mother, always a mother. You are my mother." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I reminded him, "Young Highness, we have already signed a letter of severance. I am not obligated to raise you, and you are not obligated to care for me in my old age. From now on, your only mother is Sister Yu." Lu Heng's eyes grew red as he argued stubbornly. "Wasn't that letter of severance just a temporary measure? Or did you plan to abandon me all along? Why, is it just because I said you didn't know anything and were only good for farming and chores? Are you angry about that? You're really petty." Seeing me remain silent, Lu Heng lowered his head and promised awkwardly, "If you care that much, I just won't say it anymore." Before meeting Wan Xishu, I had harbored resentment towards Lu Zun and his son. But these past days, following him to treat the sick and save the dying, I had witnessed too much life and death. I don't know when, but I suddenly came to terms with it. Life is short enough as it is. If I let hatred fill my days, it would truly not be worth it. I smiled. "Young Highness, I'm not angry. When it comes to reading and writing, I am indeed not as good as Sister Yu. But when it comes to farming and working, she is not as good as me. I may not be elegant, but I don't steal or rob. Every copper coin I earn is earned honestly. What is there to be ashamed of?" With that, I pushed him towards Yu Wanwen. "Go on, Sister Yu is a good mother. She will take good care of you." Lu Heng pouted unwillingly, but though he was young, he was sharp enough to see my resolve. He pointed to the jade pendant at my waist. "That thing my grandmother left you, can you give it to me? In the future, if I miss my mother, I'll have something for comfort." I shook my head and gently refused. "The young highness misses his mother, but I miss mine too. Let me keep this." Lu Heng wanted to say more, but Lu Zun stopped him. He took out the hairpin the late crown princess had left him. "Then this, you can at least keep this, can't you? Your Highness, if someone treats you with sincerity, you should not be of two minds, lest you break the heart of the one who shares your pillow. Sister Yu is the one who will walk with you for the rest of your life. No one but her is fit to wear this hairpin." With that, I took Wan Xishu's hand and walked away without looking back. Wan Xishu asked, "Now that you are free, will you still follow me?" I smiled and replied, "Of course. I still want to see what a Kyoyan flower looks like. And you promised to take me as your apprentice, to teach me how to heal the sick and save the dying. Don't you dare go back on your word."